Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are painting this beautiful Christmas painting today. So I was going to say Christmas in July, but we're not even quite there yet. We're just really ahead of the game. We're really early birds. So this is quite lovely. I've had this design for a while. I've done it with my classes, but I've never actually done it for my online class. So we're going to go ahead and do this today. So let's go ahead and get started. So we have these beautiful painting kits that come right to your door that have everything that you need. All the supplies are done for you. The only thing you have to go and get is water, but everything else will be in your kit for you. And we do all the line art so that you can just do the trace and you don't have to worry about drawing, and then we'll guide you step by step through this painting process. But let's go ahead and talk about the tracing part first here. All right, so I have worked ahead a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and go through those steps. So the first thing that you want to do is your kit will come with this graphite paper, and you'll notice we're only taping it up here at the top of the canvas. You want to make sure that the dull gray side faces up, and then the shiny black side faces the canvas here. So this will allow the transfer process to happen on your canvas. That's going to transfer it there. So again, dull gray side up, shiny side down. And then I've got the line art. Basically, I just put it right in the center. On this one, I lined it up here flush with the top. And again, just taping right here. It's really important to make sure, sometimes I see people tape it all the way around, and you don't want to do that. You do want to make sure it's extremely secure here, but you want to leave this part free to lift and check your work as you go to make sure that you get all of the line art in place. Because once you remove this, it's pretty much impossible to ever line it back up perfectly if you missed a step. So again, just keep all this free and clear, and then that way you can check your work as you go. And then we have a little pencil that comes with your kit. So it's just like, you know, drawing, but the work's done for you. So you just apply pressure and you just basically draw right over the top of all the line art here. And you just do that all the way through. So that's going to take you a minute, and you'll want to just, push pause here and then get caught up. And then, as I mentioned, we've worked ahead, so we can go ahead. I'm going to just remove mine since I've done all this. Okay, so then we have a permanent marker that comes with your kit as well. And I like to go ahead and do a hard line on everything. The only thing that I did not do hard line on, this little ornament here has, that design work was just really more of reference for you to know, like space planning. But this has got your sky and your little snow flurries in here, and that's a little snowy mountain. So I didn't necessarily want to do a hard line over something that you would have to have an issue like covering up. Everything else, it really works in your favor to have that hard line. But I did go ahead and leave a little teeny amount of just the pure graphite, which just looks like a pencil drawing there. So it's a little bit lighter in there, but everything else, you're going to want to take some time and just uncap, and then basically like what you just did with your pencil, but you're going to go over it now with your permanent marker. So that's going to be your next step. So you want to hit pause again, get caught up with that, and then we're going to get to the really fun stuff, which is all of the painting here. All right. So we've got our painting kit nearby, and just to give you an idea of the wonderful value with this, I used this entire painting kit to do a painting yesterday, and you can see how full all the little tubes are. So take good, you're going to be able to use this for a while. And take good care of your paints. Always recap. That'll keep those secure and long lasting. All right, so I've got a little bit of a head start here. I have some titanium white out on my plate, and we've got our brushes. Let's go ahead and do a little introduction here. So we have our mama brush, and then we have our little buddy brush, and then we have our little bit brush. Okay, we have our napkins. Make sure you get some water nearby. Your kit will come with a couple of plates. There's also a little apron in there if you want to wear your apron. And then of course you've got your paints out, and there's even a little party blower. You can make some noise if you want to. Ooh, ooh. Raise the roof, okay? And just a little visual. This is how it will arrive in your little kit there to begin with. All right. So let's go ahead and start. I'm going to do a little wash over the background. We're going to work that in. So we're using a lot of water and a very light gray, very light gray. So again, we have our, out here, some titanium white to start with. And then we have some Mars black. I'm going to do just a teeny amount here. We're going to do a little pea-sized dollop. All right, so we're going to start with Mama. I'm going to push her into the water just a little bit. And especially with new brushes, they can be a little bit stiff. So you want to go ahead and give her a little swirl into the water, give a little pat down there. And then she's going to be flexible, ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and pick up a nice dollop of the titanium white. And then we're just going to barely touch that black. You can see how tiny that touch is. Let's push that in. And that pretty much got us there instantly. So it's a very light gray. I mean, it just doesn't even look gray. It looks almost just a darkened white. Just barely add that black in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little water, because again, we want this to be a light wash over the top. And again, a little more water. Very nice amount here to work with. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and just kind of work this across the top here. Nice, smooth, horizontal strokes all the way across. We're going to make sure there's a lot of water in the consistency. So like on this one, you kind of fast and loose with it, but everything is bleeding through nicely. You don't lose your trace. And this gives that look of old weathered wood here in the background. And just push this all the way across, back and forth. And this makes the process really nice and easy too. It's just very therapeutic this way. You don't have to worry about tedious cut-in work. And it ensures that you get the look of that wood underneath all of the design work, since it is in the background and everything else is going to be in the foreground. So it's important to make sure that you've got this as your undercoat, since it's going to be in the background. And then all those lines that we put in underneath, you can see how that's already starting to look like that old weathered wood in the background too. That's just a nice little cheat for you. We love that. Nice wash of that. And then let's go ahead and do another dollop of the titanium white. And a little tiny touch of the black. And we're going to mix in a little bit of a darker gray now. Add a little bit of water. Make that more fluid, easier to move. And then we're going to start to do little pulls here from the side. Let's add a little bit. And you want to make sure your brush is more parallel to the canvas. So the flat side of the brush is facing the canvas. And we're just adding in little bits of this darker gray now. And you can start to have a little bit more black in there too, and do little pulls with that. And that's going to start to create a little bit more texture. And the undercoat is still a little bit wet. See, that's starting to give that look of that wood grain happening there. So little pulls, little horizontal pulls here. If it gets a little bit dark, you can come back in with a bit more of a white. Grab a little bit more water. A nice texture there. And just nice horizontal pulls. Again, start at the very edge of the outside and then just pull directly in. Watch your handle positioning. Make sure, again, it is parallel to that canvas. And same thing here, just nice horizontal pulls across. And that gives you that nice wood grain texture. We're going to do a few just right through the center here. I'll let me pull that through. And just tiny little touches. Yeah, so that is a great start. And voila, there's a very simple wood grain there in the background. So we're going to rinse out, and then we're going to dry off here. Okay, let's see. Now we can go ahead and we're going to start to work on the greenery first, because we need this to kind of set up and dry completely. It won't take very long. By the time we get the greenery, then we can start to work on our vibrant colors. This is still a little bit wet, but as we start to work on our greenery, if a little bit of the wet gray quality does mix in there, that's okay, because it just contributes to a little bit of that sage coloring, which is very desirable. So we're not too concerned about that. So that's what we're going to start to integrate and work into that green first. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up my cadmium green. And by the way, since I did use these yesterday, they've got the seal is broken on these. Let me give you a little visual of what it would look like brand new. So you will have to remove your little silver foil liner that helps protect the paint. All right, so I've got my cadmium green. Let me go ahead and do a little generous, at a nickel size, down to nickel size dollop there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and use our little bit brush. And we want to go ahead and add a little bit of white to that. And just a little bit of that black too. That black will kind of pull it to more of like a sage color, which is really pretty. It's that pine sage color. Very nice. A little bit of water. Get it a little bit more mixed up here. A little bit of white. Black. And then a little bit of water. Then you can do a little twirl into that paint to get your nice fine point. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start to work into the holly leaves here. And the hold on this is going to be kind of like doing a little, like you'd hold a pencil. So you just want to use a delicate hand. And it's a little bit of a darker shadow in there. So I'm going to have a little bit of this darker green over here that I can kind of dip into, a little twirl into. And we want this line to be Let's grab a little water. I want this to be a little bit darker. And look at that shadow there and there. And I'll bring in that lighter green around that edge. Back into that darker green and do little pulls here from the top, and I pull that out to like it's almost like a little bit of a curved diagonal down. On either side. Okay. All right. Add a little bit more water, some of that darker green with the black into the green and the white. And we're going to do the same thing here on this. We've got some more holly leaves. Very light hand on this. You almost want to, don't apply too much pressure. Again, you almost want to just barely touch the canvas. And then we're going to do a little line through there with that darker green. Now I'll start to push in some of that lighter green. Let me get that. Fill in the lighter sections. All right, and we've got more of these. There's a lot of greenery that comes all the way around these little berries. Go back into that darker section, kind of work that in. And pull right to the center of that light. And the dark, with that center line. A little bit of that dark there and do that little line right in the middle. Looking good. All right, we're going to start to work in. There's like little, oh, what's it called? You stand, mistletoe. It's like you stand under it, you kiss. The mistletoe leaves are a little bit different. A little bit of this white. Through here. Grab a little more of that shadow, the black, kind of push that in. Again, they have a bit more of a rounded shape here. You can come in dark, kind of help outline a little bit. And then continue just working that in. And then back a little bit and do a little turn. A little bit of water, make this very fluid. So this other side, long pulls into more of those mistletoe leaves. Then holding the brush, like you hold a pencil, that gives you a little bit more control. Using more of the light sage, and then I can dip back into the dark to kind of help create like a little outline. I push it in while the paint still has a little bit of wetness so that it transitions and softly transitions between the two colors. And if for some reason, like your paint sets up quickly and dries, you can always re-wet, add some more water. These are small sections, so it's pretty easy to come back in and do repaint, forgiving in that sense, and repaint with wet paint and then again re-wet and transition again. All right, so we have those really pretty little mistletoe leaves in there. Lovely, okay. And then these little leaves in here, these are really fun to do. We're going to start with that darker sage. You just make that, more water, need more fluidity here. So more water, do a little twirl. Let's get that center line happening. And then off to the sides, these are just gentle little pulls here. You hear a little tap, tap, tap. That's my sweet puppy dog coming through. Just long little diagonal pulls off to the side, and then just lift off with a gentle hand. Again, we're going to start center line, do that center line first. Then we're going to start to softly go down diagonal, curve off to the side. I just love those. Those are so fun and pretty to do. And you can come back in with a little bit more white and kind of add in some white highlights too. A little bit of snow-kissed, just nice accents. More water. Continue pulling those in. Soft little, very gentle diagonal pulls to the side. And a few more kind of peeking right there. Again, a very blackened sage. Just kind of working in the bones of this, so to speak, the structure of the leaf. And we're going to do that little line through the center. And then little diagonal lines off to the side. Start to pull in a little bit more of the color now. I'm going to go light on some of those lighter sections of the sage. Start to build in those layers. The stroke's still the same, just little diagonal pulls down. And I'll start to grab a little bit more of the vibrant green. Still has some darkness to it. And I'm going to add a wee little bit of some cadmium yellow. You get to see how I pull off the silver foil lining. Isn't that exciting? Exciting life of a painter. Okay, that's kind of the way I like my excitement these days. Okay, so anyway, see, this adds a little boost, little warmth like that. Okay, so we're going to start to do just little pushes of that. So a little push and then lift off, and a little push and lift off. And it was hot. Oops, that was a tad too much there. Push. Let's put in the water. And now pushes into those leaves. Just a little bit of a push and then downward diagonal pull. Push down on it and then lift off with the right hand, and push down on it, lift off with the right hand. And come back into some of that darker sage green and kind of go over my holly leaves a little bit more, kind of redefining those. And I want to darken in that center line again, just kind of pull that through. We kind of lost that when we went back in for the highlights, and so I want to redefine that again. And we have just like a few, like we have little bits of greenery that are in the background here, so do little striations of those branches that are coming through there. Tiny little tiny little lines by adding in the fullness. But going back in and working in some of those shadows in there too. And then adding a few little branches, wispy little branches that are kind of coming through here in the background. Actually, that fullness is coming around the arrangement there. And then up here. A few little branches there just to make sure those little berries had a connection. Little tiny lines there. Make sure and grab a little bit more water, and sometimes you'll have to, re-twirl the end of your brush there too to help get that little fine line for those details. Oh, very nice. Back into this little holly here, or that vibrant green. Oh, it's going rinse out. All right, now we're going to start to pull in some of those berry colors. All right, so I've got some cadmium red. And we want to cool this off a bit, so I'm going to add just a teeny amount of some primary magenta. So 2 pea-sized amounts there. And I want some fresh Mars Black over on this side that doesn't have the earth tones in there. So we're going to take a little push of this cadmium red and a little touch of primary magenta. Cool that off. And then you can also darken it up with a teeny amount of, see how powerful that black is, though it can darken it way too much too quickly. So I'm gonna pull back in a bit more of that cadmium red into it. So now we have some of that lovely crimson to work with too. So I'm going to kind of come around. Oh, soft curve here. A circular stroke. And it goes lighter into the middle. And then there's just a teeny amount of that cadmium yellow. You can do a little, almost like a little ring of that here in the very center too. Have a little, almost like you're painting a little parentheses. Kind of softly warm that up right around the center, either side. And then there's just a wee little, like almost like making a little comma right there in the center for that berry. Which you don't want too much black in there, so I'm gonna kind of wiggle that out. I'm gonna go back into my crimson and add a little bit of water, make it more fluid. And then we're gonna do a little push, that circle shape. The darker around the edges, a little bit of shadow in there. I'm going to do the base of these first here, some little soft circles. And a little bit more black around the edge. A little bit more water and sometimes a little twirl to help get that brush twirled out to a fine point helps. And let's smooth out that lighter crimson in the center of each one. Just a little bit. And then we're going to grab a little bit of that cadmium yellow. And we're just going to do that little, it's like a little donut of cadmium yellow right in the center. The little parentheses. Very subtle. Like that. Up and do that little touch into the black. And we're going to do that little, like a little comma, teeny little comma, and a little tiny comma, and a little tiny comma. And I'll switch directions on that one. Okay. Just a little base. And then the rest of these are more of like a light white, like that light gray. So we're gonna make sure we've got some darker charcoal for the shadow. And we're also just gonna have that nice hit of light white in the center. Let's grab some more. We'll start with that charcoal gray, and we're going to do a curve around the outside. And lighter white in the center. The soft circular curves with the brush. And then that center dot is that dark charcoal, not quite a black, dark, very dark charcoal. Twirl. And then we're just going to do a little. Okay. I'm going to go into that darker gray. And put in the circle. Okay, right over the top. And again, so it's kind of a push and then a half circle around each side. And hit with that light white again over the top. We're going to get these little shapes down first. And do a little push of that brighter white over the top. And then we'll come back in and, hit with darker charcoal, that little center part. But for right now, we're just trying to get the basic shape in. Just a little shadow at the top with that darker charcoal. And little shadows here first. Almost forgot about these little guys. Not forget about them. A lot more of that white. Then with that into the center. And then a little twine. More of that soft diamond. And let's do that little pop of that dark charcoal gray. A little pearl. And then we're going to do a little hammer, hammer. I'm taking that darker charcoal gray and just kind of working in some more shadows here. Almost like a little parentheses of shadow. So you can just kind of work in a little parentheses of dark gray around one side of the berry to give that little shadow reference. This is just a real fun way for beginners to kind of put that shadow reference in. All right, and then another little fun trick you can do, which is super easy for beginners, is doing little berries. And you can do it with just the end handle of the brush. Let's get, and you can vary your brush handle. Like this would make a really big berry. So I'll give you a few examples here, but we're gonna dip into this cadmium red, and then I can start to sprinkle these around and just touch. And with that small, or if you want some that are bigger, then you can do that too. I might have taken on the bigger one. So let's use Mama and label this cadmium red. And we can start to sprinkle those little berries. And I usually like to put them in like little clusters of three, but you can kind of just sprinkle some randomly too. Oops, I'm just putting them right. So yeah, you can add some really nice fullness to this with those berries. Just kind of be playful with it. You just dip into the paint and then dip down, just makes a nice little circular shape. I got an end of a little dry paint in there. So you know, taking a little look-see, you can add a few more. I think it's really fun little touch in there. Yeah. So that's very pretty. Maybe a few more here. I'm gonna create just a lot more color on this one. It's very pretty. All right, so we're done our little berries. Okay, let's see here. Let's go ahead and work in our bold colors. And I was going to tell you too, a little cheat that's really fun for beginners as well. These dark lines in here, that can be done with your permanent marker at the very end too. If you have a shaky hand and you prefer to use a ruler, you can let everything completely dry and do that at the end. Or you can paint it on if you would like. So it just depends. But just know that that is a great tool for beginners as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let's work in some color. Okay, so I've got let's use Little Buddy for a little bit. And we've got almost like a hot pink kind of a color that has a little bit of red in there too. So I've got my primary magenta, my cadmium red, and we're going to do a little touch of that white in there too. Just a little bit of that cadmium red. And Little Buddy. I'm going to go ahead and work this with a thin line all the way around. Firm press here. And firm press, and you'll get that nice thin line edge of the brush to help you. Put that down in this paint. And again, this is a pencil hold. Use that to get those nice thin lines in there. And I'm going to go ahead and cover those little dots for now, because see, they're going to bleed right through. So I still know where they're at. And we can touch those up with the white paint later. But I'm going to go ahead and just do color blocking for right now. And solid color in there. Oh, very nice. And very similar color happening over here. I'm going to do a little bit more of my just primary magenta. Doesn't have really the red. I'm going to rinse off here. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of white with just primary magenta. the end of the brush to do that curve. It feels like you're making a big giant parentheses each side. And if you accidentally come in over this design a little bit, it's really not that big of a deal. You can easily, the light blue has really good coverage, so it can easily come back in over the top to make that design. I'm being a little bit overly cautious with the cut in here. And then you can add more of a swish of white here. Very nice. Out. All right, a couple of options with this. This is all dry. So one of the easiest things to do for beginners is to go ahead and do a hard line with your permanent marker that we've got. And so you can let that work for you. And then you can always come back in and do touch up with your paint to give that painterly effect over the top. But again, this is really great for beginners. And especially if you have a shaky hand. This will help you get the main parts of this done. With much ease. So we're going to go ahead and put that in with our permanent marker. And that way you don't have to worry about the precision too. And you've got your underpaint done because we did that in the beginning with the wash over the top. But I do understand some people like that very painterly look, so we will talk about that a little bit too. And it's like a little giving Mackenzie Childs vibes here. But they most definitely have a painted look there. The artists are really putting in the time. Good job. Okay. So, all right. And see, when I was talking about those little lines earlier, see, you can also just do that. And that really helps. I'll go ahead and just kind of do a few of these. Rest my arm on that. And that win in Rome. Get a little bit of that done. Okay. So mention the little painterly look. So you can bring back in your little buddy brush here with that black, and you can just go right over the top of this. And just loosely make those little marks right in the center of each one. And that way the eye will see the texture of the paint over the top. This out. And then in the center there, if you want a little bit more of that cream, let's go ahead and do I'm gonna have to start with some brown as a base. So let's go ahead and do a little orange and a little bit of black. And got some white. And so now we've got this coffee color and a little bit of yellow. We're gonna work that in. Now we're getting to that cream. I got more white to it now. So that took a hot minute. Okay, so there's our cream. And then you can do like little tiny pushes in here too. So it gives that more painterly look. Now some of those areas get really tiny. So of course, let's rinse out here. And take our little bit brush. And you can, come in here and do, the finer touches. Just takes a lot more of that precision. Or again, you could have just left it alone and just had that really nice off-white as your checker. It's all good because it was painted underneath there. And then more of those golden tones, and we're going to work this in at the top. With our little bit brush here. And then we're going to use a little bit of that dark charcoal gray that we had. And we're going to, while the paint's wet, we're going to work that in on this side for a little bit of that shadow. And we're going to do a little pull into the center. Like that. And then a little bit of that shadow is right here on this edge too. All right, now let's go, we're going to swing back up here and get some pretty yellow in here. A little bit of water and some of that bright yellow. And there's just a hint. Actually, where's my little, there's my little bit. All right, so we had our brown. We mixed up a little bit of brown, black, orange. There's our brown. We've got a little bit of that nearby. A little water to our yellow, make it kind of soupy. And you can just go bold, bright yellow on this. That's an option, much easier. This first one up here, I did more of like a watercolor, but this is a little bit of brown. We kind of add that brown in a little bit to it. And see, I've got a lot of water in there, so it's mimicking the look of the watercolor. So just kind of swirling that around there. Let's see, well, I've got this cream. I did a little pat down with my little buddy. We're going to go back into this cream color. That's going to be the perfect. This is what we mixed up for the top here and those little squares. And if you didn't get that, you thought, oh, I don't need that. Go back, rewind, fix that part. We're going to use this as our base for our cheetah print. And I'm just going to go ahead and cover. And I'm also going to use it for this little section here, the top of that. Always rinse out. All right, and then we've got a little bit of that brown. We're using a little bit now. I'm gonna add a little bit of that shadow here. And I'm just gonna pull out on the side. Gonna do that little shadow that pulls into the center. Let's go ahead and get our red. This is gonna be that cadmium red. We're gonna work into that. A little bit brush and cadmium red. Oh, I must have got my phone on. I've been still. Put that smooth red onto the background. Lovely. Get more details in. And then we have this beautiful Viridian ornament up here. I do have two plates for you and your kit, so we're gonna use another plate as well. There's a lot going on in this painting. Okay. All right, so we're gonna grab a little bit of water and a Viridian. And I'm gonna go ahead and just do a wash over the top. These little circles are gonna bleed through. Plus, they're just very easy to put on over the top. So even if you do totally cover it, that's that little tapping motion, super easy to do over the top there. So a firm press, hold the brush like a pencil. Kind of push around in a circular pattern. And then when you want to do more of the fill-in over the top at the end, you want to turn that handle more over to the side. And slightly just kind of feather that out. Pretty. But start to do the base here with our little blue skies. We have our primary cyan blue. We'll dodge that. Need a water break. Hydrate. Okay. And let's grab some of that titanium white and water. Start to mix those two together. We got our light blue. Definitely gonna add a lot of water to this. Like kind of soupy. I'm gonna mimic the look of like watercolor a little bit here. Oh, let's go ahead and I'm just gonna go for straight water here. And I'm gonna work in that color. I'm just going for some water. Like the soupy, like that in. There's our little white snow mountain. This is our sky here. So our trees. And I've got my darker blue nearby, so I'm gonna work that in a little bit. Get touches down underneath the tree for a little bit of shadow. And come back in with just water. And the brush is still full of color, so I'm just kind of working that in underneath. That's pretty. Okay. And then gonna do a little bit of some little bit brush and some pure white. Pure white here. Right now, let's rinse out. And we're gonna do some dark primary blue. And we're gonna do a little Mars black. Those two together. Coral. And then start tiny up at the top here. And then just start to go down little tiny diagonal strokes. That's kind of triangular like. And again, start super tiny with a little tiny touch. And then you're going to kind of pull out like little diagonal strokes here. Again, little tiny hook there and then pull down. Then you've got the little bit of white. It's actually, we're going to bring that in. That's a nice little touch too. So, all right, so little tiny touches now with the white. And we're going to blend that in over the top of those trees. So it's the same stroke where you're just kind of doing super tiny little downward diagonal strokes over the top here. Like a little amount of snow on those trees. There's little touches here, and then kind of just gently pull down. We have a fun little, you can do another little tree. All right, and then our little snow flurries, this is where we use the end of the handle. Okay, I'm gonna get into the white, and you're just gonna tap down. And you know what? I'm gonna give this a little bit of time. I think, yeah, it's so watery still. I need that to set up and dry. So we'll come back in and do more of those. All right. Now, going back to our little bit brush, we're going to come back here and tag this light blue. So I'm going to grab some of this white, blue. And this is a nice opaque light blue. So just white and primary cyan blue. And a swirl here. A fun little cloud-like star shape. Okay, pretty. And let's go ahead with that. Off. Now we need a pretty lime green. So let's get some. Well, there's a couple options. You can use your green and white, so I'll show you that. But you also have some bright yellow green in your kit, so we're going to go ahead and use that. And then the two size amount there. So that's a really vibrant, pretty green. Look into that. That is the money green right there. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so a little twirl into that. And then we're going to go ahead and work into that little shade. So again, just keep it real delicate with your touch. Sometimes a good mental way to look at it is just barely touch. And again, it's that pencil hold. That's what's going to help you have that precision that you need. And then your tip here, you can do that little twirl into the paint to help get it refined out to a nice fine point. And this is that bright yellow green that I said. Beautiful. Okay, so rinse out, dry off. And let's see what I want to do next here. Um, all right, let's go ahead and get this dry. That is completely dry. That's nice. Okay, let's go ahead and put him here. Couple different ways to do this. With this dry, you can use your permanent marker to go ahead and just line out your art, which is really good for beginners. Also, if you have a shaky hand, there's that precision. You can also do your cheetah print this way. I'll give you one little, you can do like that, see how that works, which is great when it's wet. But I'm going to go ahead and start. I do need to work in a little bit of this soft brown color first. And I'm going to teach you how to just paint with the black too. All right, so we've got this brown, but it's a little bit brushed. Let's grab some of that orange. And let's do a little bit of this black. Now that's brown. I kind of want to make it, let's add more orange because I want it almost like a rust color. I'm going to do a little twirl into that. Nice fine point. And then every place I want to choose a spot, I'm just going to do a little dot. Just sprinkle these little dots around. And there's my base. Now, rinse out. Now, again, this is, you can let it dry and do this with permanent marker if you want. A little bit of water to my black. Make sure it's nice and fluid, easy to move. Definitely get that little twirl so you have a nice fine point. You can have the same precision as you would with a permanent marker, but I'm just going to do tiny little, almost going to feel like little parentheses around each little cheetah shape. And as I make the little wiggle around the side with that little parentheses, I do kind of wiggle my brush a little bit. So actually, shaky hand is your friend here. You don't want it to be too perfect. You're going to kind of wiggle it. And I intentionally kind of, just a little bit of a wiggle. A little bit of wiggle around each one. All right. And then you can add little tiny dots for your cheetah print in here. I'm just reinforcing some of those. I'm gonna come back in with our little cream. Add a white to that. So I'm gonna do those touches back in there too. Barely touch the canvas. We're gonna reinforce that black just a little bit. All right, let's shift gears to this little swirly up here. And we're just going to come in, and again, this can be with your permanent marker at the very end if you want that. And then we're going to do a little bit of our light gray now. And I'm going to go ahead and work into this little top here of our ornaments. And we have some light gray here as well. And we're going to bring back in this white here over that dark charcoal gray and kind of work that in. All right, and then our little circles. Oh wait, I'm gonna do one more charcoal gray thing here too. And then I'm gonna do a larger on a plate. I'm gonna do a larger cheetah print for you because I'm noticing on my camera view, like it's so small and such a tight little design. It's very hard to see, so I'm gonna do an enlarged cheetah version too. In case you love the look of that. And then we have our dark charcoal here too, so we'll sweep that in on that one. Okay. All right, so got my handle here. I'm going to use this for the pink. And I need to mix up a little bit here again. So I've got my primary magenta. I'm going to grab some white, work that in here. And I can have some that's really light pink. And then I can have the darker pink. All right, so I'm going to take the Mama brush. I'm going to dip this into my light pink here. And then we're just going to touch right down, make a nice big circle there of light pink. Circle these around. And then I need another size circle here, so I'm going to use Little Buddy. And I'm going to go into that darker pink. And I'm going to sprinkle those around. Very fun. Getting there. Long painting. All right, we'll do another touch here to fill out that circle. All right, now I also need these little white dots in here. So I've got a big dollop of my titanium white here. I'm going to go ahead and push into that. See how I just dipped into it? And then I'll go ahead and just push down. And there is that lovely white polka dot there. All right, so I'm going to go big on this cheetah print here. I'm going to get some of that cream. And make this big part here. I want this to be where you can really see it because it just became so small. All right, so there's the cream base. All right, and then you can do your little brown dots. I'm using my little bit brush, and I just kind of do a little push and just kind of shimmy it a little bit, and I vary the direction of that. And push those down. Okay, so it looks a little weird at first, but that's your base. Now rinse out, dry off really well. Go back into your black. And then this is where you're going to do that little wiggle, but it's going to feel like a little parentheses. And so that comes around that shape. Just like that. You kind of push and wiggle and push and wiggle. And so you can see how it's starting to make that little cheetah print. And push and wiggle. And we'll do that in that black there. So yeah, that's looking like a really cute little cheetah print. And then you can do little just dots in there to kind of help fill in. So there's the cheetah print that you can actually see, and that's really cute. So hold that and look at that for the cheetah print. You're going to push through with that. Okay. All right. And then I think we are really at that point where we're getting to be done here. I'm kind of wanting to redo my little cheetah print here. So I needed to really lighten up at the very beginning. You can end the video now if you want, or you can stick with me. I think I'm going to redo mine. Got really crowded. I'm going to go ahead and just push through here and lighten up a little bit. Get that wet. Right, it's still kind of mixing in there. These are really light pans. I'm going to go a lot lighter, softer, buttery, more buttery color here. That's kind of pretty there, just like that too. Lots of fun options with these. Oh, I need to do my snow in here too. Let me get this chance to set up. I'm going to come back in with my little bit brush here. And then let's do a little touch into white. And this is really drying up nicely. So I'm going to do my little dots of snow. And continue to put my little snow down here. And let's see here. So I've got my cheat print that I can do. Actually, you know what? Before that, I'm going to go ahead and highlight these little lines in here. That's something else I can work on. All right, so I'm going to do, I need a little bit more of my Mars black. I want this to be charcoal, so I have a little bit of white to it. So it's super dark still, but a little bit of white in there. Firm press, get a nice thin edge. And then I'm going to go ahead and go over these horizontal lines. Looking good. And again, that trace that we did in the beginning is still showing through, which is nice. A bit of water. Okay. Firm press, nice thin line. Oh, that's really cool. Okay. Something else you can do too that's kind of fun. I don't have it in the model up here, but you can make like little nail holes if you want. You can do little dots like that. Little reference of those little nail holes. These are totally optional. You do not have to use them if you don't want to. Okay, no, or not. Some people just like the simplicity of it, either way. All right, and then let's see here. I'm going to come back to my little cheetah heart. Okay, so let's grab a little bit of water. And I'm just going to do a little touch. Real gentle hand. Okay, it's pretty wet. I'm not going to try to cram so many into such a small area this time. Like that. Well, pick up some of that black. And a little bit of water, make it more fluid. Do a little twirl into our paint. And we're going to do that little parentheses, parentheses. Let's got a tight swirl here. That one in the back here. And I just added a few more little black dot little touches. And again, since it is so small, the monitor view, again, just keep in mind there's that, you can just kind of pause it right there to have a better look, to really get a good visual there. All right, let me take another look here. I think we are done. There's just so many details. I want to make sure I got everything. I'm gonna do a little shadow with that. Again, darken that up a little bit. And just ornaments, that edge. And then our berries have dried up here, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of white, and I'm just going to do a little bit of a push and a little bit more water that actually make that a little more. And we're just going to do a little, almost like a little parentheses. A little bit more highlight on those lighter berries there. A little soft push and parentheses. Come back in here with a little bit more yellow. And hopefully add a brighter pop of that here. And just grab a little bit of white with that too. So that here. All that white. A little touch there. A little bit of white. All right, I think we are done. And then you can just sign your masterpiece. All right, so here at the bottom, this is all dry. So I'm going to go ahead and use my permanent marker here. Ta-da. All right, good job. All right, well, thank you again so very much for joining me today. It was so much fun. I hope you enjoyed this. This is going to be a really cute painting for Christmas time, and it'll definitely give you the long class. Yeah, this is one of my longer ones. So yeah, enjoy, take your time with it. You might even want to break it up into 2 different sessions. But yes, thank you again so very much for joining me today. Y'all have a beautiful rest of the day and happy early Merry Christmas. Toodles, love y'all.